Hi, I'm Barry, this is Mega City Gaming, and this is Devil's Run, Route 666. Before I actually play, I'm going to go through some of the basic rules, the core rules of how to play. More for my benefit than for yours, but it'll give you an idea of how it plays. Then you can watch me screw up the rules. Watch this space. Let's have a look at the vehicle cards first. The vehicle cards have 6 stats. The first one is MM, which is minimum movement. This is the minimum number of spaces a vehicle must move in each turn. This minimum movement modifier is supplemented by D3 extra movement. Therefore, a vehicle with a minimum movement of 3 must move at least 3 spaces and will additionally be able to move another 1, 2 or 3 spaces depending on the D3 result. For example, let's put a car right there. This guy Wyvern, his minimum movement is 2. We roll a D3, rolled a 3, so he can move 1, 2, or he can move up to 5. So 1, 2 minimum, and then 3 stop, or 4 stop, or 5 stop. Okay, right, that's MM. Next one is CP. CP is chassis points. The chassis value represents the durability of each vehicle. Once reduced to 0 or less, the vehicle becomes a wreck and then becomes an obstacle on the highway. Next one, armor. Armor represents the bits of the vehicle that do not matter if they get shot. An A test, armor test, is successful if the D10 roll is lower or equal to the armor value. An armor value of 2 therefore means the vehicle needs to roll a 1 or 2 to ignore the damage point. 1 means the vehicle needs a 1. There you go. So again, let's imagine the Wyvern gets shot at and makes an armor test. The armor is 4, so we roll a D10. We want 4 or less. Okay, roll a 7. That's a 7 right there. That means the Wyvern fails the test. Next one, E, is evade. One of the best offensive weapons in any haulage ganger's arsenal is their vehicle. Vehicles can do serious damage by ramming or sideswiping another vehicle. Evading such moves is often a wise option. The E value represents the vehicle's ability to evade such an attack. An evade reaction is successful if the D10 roll is lower or equal to the E value. So again, we're rolling equal or lower to. So again, let's imagine the Wyvern is evading a ram, and that's Wyvern has an E value of 4. Okay, again that's off the screen, that's a 1. That's less than a 4. So that's evaded. Awesome. Next one is Bs1 Ballistic Skill 1. This is how good the vehicle driver or rider is at shooting at a speeding vehicle from their own speeding vehicle. A ballistic skill test is successful if the D10 roll is lower or equal to the ballistic skill value. So a biker with a BS of 7 will need to roll a 1 to 7 to hit his target. The BS value is often modified depending on the distance and situation. Right, so let's imagine the Wyvern, the driver has a BS of 6. And so we roll a D10, we want to roll under, that's a 10, that's not under 6, so that's a miss. BS2. Exactly the same as BS1, but this is the ballistic skill for any other person in the vehicle. Vehicles with a BS2 value of dash cannot be allocated a passenger or gunner. So in this case, the Wyvern equipped with a driver with a pistol and a gunner with a dragon's breath. So yeah, the driver has a BS of 1, and the driver's arc of fire is over there, and then the dragon's breath is rear arc, and that is BS of 7. There you go. Right. Also on the card we have a dollar value. This is the price. As Devil's Run has been designed as a sandbox style game where players can create their own gangs, vehicle conversions and missions, each vehicle has a dollar value. Each weapon, armor and gear choice also has a dollar price. When creating a gang for a mission, the players should ensure that their gang dollar total either equals the designated target or is less than it. Okay, so there's basically points values. Also on the card you have special skills. Some vehicles come with special skills. The special skills are described on the vehicle stat card. So again, for example, this one, Scrub Rider, ignore the scrub terrain rules. There you go. Okay, now we look at the weapon and gear stat cards. So here, so on the vehicle stat cards at the bottom it says, for example, the Wyvern again, equipped with a driver with a pistol, this one, and a gunner with a dragon's breath. So we get these for free by selecting the Wyvern. Yeah. Okay. So for example, the pistol, we've got ROF, R and P, so 3 different stats. ROF is the rate of fire. That is the number of shots the weapon can make, and hence the number of D10s that are rolled when completing a ballistic skill test. Each successful test counts as a hit. P, the power of the weapon. If the weapon hits and the armor test is failed, the weapon causes P chassis points to be lost for each successful hit. So, for example, pistol, P1, if the pistol hits once, that's 1 damage. Yeah. There you go. Next, range, which is in the middle. So the range is the maximum number of squares the weapon can hit. Hence, a pistol is at maximum range if the target is the 4th square away from the vehicle completing a BS test. Right. So let's imagine. Let's move the camera a little bit. Right, let's imagine the Wyvern is shooting. The driver of the Wyvern is shooting, and the driver has a firing arc like that. And so the driver is shooting this car here, the commander, and the range is 4. So that is the maximum range would be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the maximum range. Yeah. Okay. Aside from that, we have modifiers. If we look at the range modifier chart, I'm just checking the range modifier chart. Depending on the type of vehicle, the chart varies. Yeah. So if we look at a car, the primary arc of fire is what the driver has, which is like that. So basically here, so 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And the further away the target is, the higher the penalty for the to hit roll. So for example, the Wyvern BS, driver's BS is 6, yeah, and if the target is 4 squares away, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a -3. -3. So he has to roll a, so 6 minus 3 is 3, so 3 or less. Okay, and that's a 10, so that's of course not a 3 or less, that's a miss. Now let's talk about activations. Each vehicle during their activation has 2 action points. So for example, a a vehicle can move and then do a basic implement action, or move and then shoot, or do a special move action which costs 2 action points, or a special implement action. Okay, those are the basics. So let's look at the first one, a move and basic implement action. So there are a couple of different kinds of basic implement actions. One is called push the button, which means a vehicle may activate something it's equipped with, like an offensive or defensive equipment or gear, and that costs 1 action point. Another option is repair. So if a vehicle is wrecked, you may attempt to repair a wreck, rolling 3d6. On a roll of 2 6s, the vehicle is repaired and regains 1 CP and must immediately move in a forward direction of its minimum move. On a roll of 3 6s, the vehicle regains 3 CP and has 2 action points. So that's pretty cool. Right, next one, basic move action and shoot action. So let's start with the move action. So the Wyvern has a minimum move of 2, 1, 2, plus a D3, which is optional. So that's a 1, so he can move 1 if he wants to move 1. So let's move him 1. There we go. Right, next, he can shoot. So let's imagine, let's put this guy here. The commander is right there. And so we're rolling ballistic skill 1, which is the driver's ballistic skill of 6. And that is minus any modifiers. The pistol has a rate of fire of 1, which means we roll 1 dice. So minus modifiers at that distance is, so 0, minus 1, minus 2. So we roll a D10, and we want to roll 6 minus 2 is 4, so 4 or less. And we roll 5, and that's a miss. Okay, let's imagine I had rolled something like a 2 and I had hit. So this means the commander has to roll a defensive roll, an armor roll of 5 or less, which he doesn't do. Okay, so the commander takes, according to the pistol, power 1, the commander takes 1 chassis damage, so minus 1 CP. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the commander has 11 CP, so he's not really worried about that. Another kind of basic move action is braking. Yeah. So if we brake, that uses 1 action point, and the vehicle moves directly backwards its full movement. So mm plus D3. So imagine the Wyvern brakes, his minimum movement is 2 plus D3, which is 1. So 1, 2, 3. So imagine all the other vehicles are moving forward, and then he applies the brakes, and obviously he appears to be going backwards. Now let's look at ramming actions. This is basically a special move action. So special move actions cost 2 action points, so basically a whole activation. Let's imagine the Wyvern is directly behind the commander, and the Wyvern decides to ram the commander. Wyvern has minimum movement of 2. Let's put the commander there. So minimum movement of 2, so 1, 2, plus a D3. That's a 3. So luckily he rolls enough to ram the commander. So when ramming, the target moves 1 forward, and the rammer, the attacker, moves into that square. Ramming must be declared at the beginning of the move action. Ramming vehicles may not move diagonally. Vehicles that complete a ram action move the ramming vehicle into the square of its target. and move the target 1 square forward, which is what we just saw. Count the number of squares the ramming vehicle has moved and add it to the initial A value, and then add D3. So that's basically armor plus D3 plus the number of squares, which was 3. I'm not sure if we count the square that we pushed into, so let's call that 3. So armor is 4 plus the 3 that we moved is 7 plus D3, that's a 1, that's 8. So 8. And the defender does almost the same thing. Defender takes their armor value of 5 in this case, adds a D3, and that's a 2. That's a 7. That's less than an 8. So 8 versus 7. So it looks like the Wyvern wins. And the commander takes the difference of the two values as damage, which is 1. So 1 CP damage, which again, the commander is not that worried about at the moment. Another option we can do is called ram on the brakes. So let's imagine the vehicles are in this configuration, and the Wyvern, I'm going to assume, it doesn't specify in the rules, but I'm going to assume the movement is the same. So it'll be minimum movement plus D3, which is 3. 1, 2, 3. That's not enough. 1, 2, 3. So he rammed on the brakes and it wasn't enough. Also, you have to specify ramming on the brakes at the beginning of the move action. So let's imagine he did roll. Okay, that's a 2. So that's a total of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The target moves 1 space back, and the attacker moves into that space. Okay. Now we count the number of squares the ramming vehicle has moved and add it to its initial armor value, then add D3. So that's 4 plus 4 armor plus D3, which is 2. So that's 10. And the rammed vehicle adds D3 to their initial armor value. So 10 versus 5 plus 2, so 10 versus 7. Both vehicle takes CP damage equal to their opponent's total. Wow. Both vehicles take CP damage equal to their opponent's total. Wow. So he takes 10 damage and he takes 7 damage. Wow, that seems a bit strong. Let me check. Okay, that's the way it is. So actually ramming on the brakes is a very effective way of wiping someone out, as you can imagine in real life. Right, the next special move action, which is again 2 action points, is a Sideswipe. Okay. Any vehicle may complete a Sideswipe action by declaring it at the beginning of their move action, as with the other 2 special move actions. Once declared, move the sideswiping vehicle into the square occupied by the target vehicle and place the target vehicle 1 square directly away from the sideswiping vehicle. So let's imagine the Wyvern swipes the commander 1 that way. Add the result of a D3 roll to the sideswiping vehicle's current A. So again, we roll D3 plus armor for the Wyvern. So that's 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay, so add the result of D3 to the current A and CP value. Okay, so that's CP 9 plus armor 4 is 13 plus 3 is 16, so 16 for the Wyvern. For the target value, add the result add the result of a D3 to its current armor and CP value. Okay, so armor plus CP is 16 for the commander, plus a D3 is 17, so commander has the higher value, and the lower value, which is the Wyvern of 16, takes 1 damage, which is the difference. Okay, there are some additional rules, specifically critical hits. So, for example, all vehicles have sensitive sections, which, if hit, are likely to cause more serious damage. You imagine like fuel tanks and stuff like that. To represent this, any ballistic skill test roll of a natural 1. So remember that we're rolling under, so lower is better. So if we roll, let's imagine that's a 1. That's a critical hit. And any unsaved critical hits additionally cause an extra 1 CP of damage. So, for example, the pistol is a power 1. If that hit goes through the armor, that causes, if it's a critical, it causes 2 damage. Right, let's talk about defensive rolls. So just now we did a defensive roll, and that was basically rolling 1 dice, and that was pretty simple. Let's imagine you're taking more than 1 point of damage. You roll for each point of damage. So even if it's a critical, that means 2 armor saves, yeah? But you don't roll them at the same time. You roll them one after the other, and you keep rolling, you keep saving until you fail. If you fail, that's it. All the other points of damage go through. So the first time you roll a fail, that's it. Every point after that cannot be saved. Right, let's talk about evade. Evade. So we talked about offensive actions, special move actions like ram on the brakes, and sideswipe. Let's have a look at sideswipe to begin with. So if the Wyvern sideswipes the commander, or attempts to, the commander has an option of evading, in which case he rolls equal or lower than his evade stat, which is 2. So he's not very good at evading, but he does roll a 2. Wow, look at that. So in the case of a sideswipe, he now has the option of moving this way or this way, not forward, yeah? Only if these spaces are empty. If they're not empty, he can't do it, yeah? So let's imagine he goes back, and then the attacker must move into the space as an offensive move, but nothing happens. No one takes any damage. No one is attacked. Okay, let's talk about ram. So as before, Wyvern rams the commander, and the commander again rolls evade. Let's imagine the commander rolls a 2 again. The commander has an option of moving left or right, again providing that these spaces are empty. So let's imagine he does that. Again, the Wyvern must move into that space, or actually I think full movement. The Wyvern must move its full movement, because it was, you imagine he's got his pedal pushed down, and so for example if he rolled what's that, 2 plus his minimum movement 4, he must move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay, ram on the brakes. Ram on the brakes. So again, the Wyvern is in front. Wyvern rams on the brakes. The commander rolls defense. Okay, let's imagine he rolled a 1. The commander now has an option of moving left or right. Okay, so let's imagine these spaces are free. This one has a bit of debris there, so he's going to choose to go that way. And the Wyvern must move its max movement. So that would be minimum movement 2 plus 3 is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, because he's unobstructed, he's not touched anything, he's just rammed on the brakes. Psh, that's it, maximum movement backwards. Right, okay, that's evade. Another thing that may happen is, for example, let's imagine the commander is there and the Wyvern is there. The Wyvern successfully sideswipes the the commander, and oh, look at that, it's off the board. In that case, the commander has moved off the board, and that is called a wipeout, which means the next turn the commander must pass that. So basically the commander misses a turn, and then the next turn may enter the square that they left and activate as normal. So okay, the next turn happens, the wyvern moves a bit forward, moves over there perhaps, and then he misses a turn, and the next turn the wyvern moves a bit forward, and then he comes on the board and activates as normal. So not the end of the world, but a bit of a pain in the ass if you're in a hurry. That was the basics. Watch the next video to see me screw up the rules royally. In the meantime, like, subscribe, comment below. Thank you very much.